If you're looking to move to Gig Harbor in 2026, you're probably envisioning a place with great waterfront, safe streets, evergreen trees, quiet neighborhoods, all that sort of stuff. And you are not wrong. However, you could buy a great house and end up in the wrong spot. So watch this video. When people are buying here in Gig Harbor in 2026, there's a few things that trip people up, and there's some clear patterns that show up. We're going to talk about things that could actually be the wrong spot for you based on your routines and lifestyle and things like that. We're also going to talk about things that you find here in the Northwest that you may not find in other parts of the country, specifically when it comes to your house. And then we're going to talk about how to make it all the sweet spot for you so everybody ends up with a win-win. Hey everybody, my name is Darren Rivers. I am the Northwest Realtor and managing broker of the Rivers Group. Today, I got Coda with me. He's our team mascot, and he's going to be along for the ride on this video. We help hundreds and hundreds of people relocate from all over the country to here in Gig Harbor and the surrounding areas. And we want to make it as easy and seamless as possible for you. And that's what we're going to do right now is we're going to dive right into what you need to be prepared for to make your lifestyle thrive here in Gig Harbor. All right, so people love living here in Gig Harbor year-round, and it is a beautiful spot. I mean, look how beautiful it is now. It's green. It's February, for goodness sakes, and I'm just in a thin sweatshirt. Super nice out. But you better be prepared because the reason it's so green is it does rain in the wintertime. Now, I want to make very, very clear, we have a much worse reputation than it actually is. So let's get into this now. For example, let's talk about umbrellas. All right, so if you move up here, you don't really need to buy an umbrella. I mean, everybody owns one, and I have one too that I take on the golf course once in a while, but nobody really uses an umbrella. And I want to put it into really good perspective for you. So in the wintertime here, we have this reputation of all the rain, that it's just rain, 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 rain. You know what's crazy? Is it rains more in Boston. It rains more in Chicago. It rains more in Dallas than it does here, at least inches per year. Now, what we have here is we've got the gray. It's February. It's kind of cloudy outside. It's gray. We have our sunny days, of course, but it's gray a lot. From mid-October into April, it's kind of gray, and you just got to be prepared for that. But just have a nice raincoat. You don't even need a big, thick raincoat because we don't really get that cold. We're super, super mild here. It might get below freezing a few times a year. It might snow once or twice a year, a couple inches that lasts a couple days. But for the most part, we're really, really mild. But like I said, it's mid-February. I'm just wearing a thin little sweatshirt. It's nice and dry. We're out here for a nice walk in the afternoon. It's fantastic. Okay, so here in Washington, especially in the winter, talk about footwear. So check these out. It's mid-February. I'm out on this trail right now. It has, of course, rained over the last few days. It's not raining now, but I got these great waterproof shoes so I can take my dog out here on a walk out on the trails in nature, and it's fantastic. It's wet, okay? The wintertime is just wet. Even if it's not raining, it's gray. Things are kind of damp. Just have nice shoes so your feet don't get wet because it really sucks to walk around with wet feet, right? So there's a few other things you got to be prepared for if you're moving to live here in Gig Harbor and you want to thrive here year-round. When you got to be prepared is for the winter months because the summer is easy. The summer is the most beautiful place on earth. It's sunny all the time. It's 80 degrees every day. There's no real humidity. There's no bugs. I mean, it is truly, heaven on earth in the summertime. The wintertime is where you got to be prepared. You just got to be mentally prepared. The days are shorter, right? So December 21st, shortest day of the year, it's dark at 4:30. But then rapidly, the days start getting longer and longer and longer, and you adjust. But you just got to be prepared, especially if you're one of these people that are going to work at 8 in the morning and coming home at 5 at night. It's going to be dark in that December, January type month, and Coda's pulling on me here a little bit. And hey, bud, come on, let's go. Over here. Thank you. So you just got to be prepared for that. So we have nice long summer days, 9:30, 10 o'clock at night before the sun goes down. The winter, it gets dark early. Keep that in mind. Okay, so the biggest thing, in my opinion, is just being optimistic about how the winter is up here. And you got to just embrace it. If you're going to live here and be happy with it, you got to embrace it. So you got to realize that there are going to be those stretches of rainy days and have some good indoor activities. Have some clubs that you may belong to, things like that. I love stormy nights personally. I love it whenever I can have a book by the fireplace and the wind's blowing and it's raining really hard at night. I love those kind of things. But I can't just stay inside all the time. You gotta just embrace the outdoors. I mean, there's snow skiing that's not very far away. If you're a skier, you can always just put on that great Gore-Tex raincoat that you have and come out on a trail like this, even if it is raining a little bit. So the people that are really Debbie Downers about the whole weather here is they just let it get to them. They just get bundled up inside and they just don't embrace it. Get ready in your your morning routines. Have your morning cup of coffee. Go for a 20-minute walk every morning. It doesn't matter if it's raining or not. Like I said, if you want to take an umbrella, you can. I don't even really have one that I use very often other than on the golf course once in a while. And even that, see, we go golfing in the rain too. So let's just sum this part up right now. And we're basically talking about the weather, right? We're talking about how the winter is a little bit gray. It's a little bit damp. It can be a little bit wet at times. There's no arguing that for sure. But you can thrive in this environment if you just embrace it and get out and then just think of the benefit you get. The springs and the summers are fantastic. It's green for a reason. It's because we're damp in the winter. And it's just, I'm telling you, the summer's the best place on earth. Coda, quit pulling me. And let's jump to the next part. All right, so let's dig into the housing aspect of Gig Harbor and some things that you may not be familiar with. Now, you can look at listing photos and see this perfect, beautiful house, but there's some things that you may not be familiar with that are very prevalent here that are not prevalent where you're from. So here's an example. I came from Los Angeles area. Everything is on a city sewer, everything is on public water, and everything is on a slab. Here, we have things called septic systems. We have a lot of people that are on wells, and almost every house is built on a foundation that has a crawl space. Okay, so let's dig into that septic system. So like I said, I grew up in the Los Angeles area. I came up here right after college, and the house that I first bought was on a septic system. And I was literally like, what is a septic system? I could not fathom that all the stuff that I put down the drains and down the toilet go into a tank on my property and then go out into a drain field on my property. I couldn't wrap my brain around that. Here in this area, you are on public sewer pretty much if you're in city limits. So the city limits of Gig Harbor, Tacoma for sure. The bigger cities all have public sewer and that's all in great. But if you get outside of those city limits, and especially in the more rural areas, you're definitely on a septic system. And it's not a red flag at all. As it turns out, they're actually pretty cool and pretty low maintenance as long as you take care of them correctly. So you don't want to put, a bunch of stuff down your drains that shouldn't go down it, greasy type stuff, solid waste, things like that. So you just have to be mindful of what you put down your drains that go into your septic field. Okay. So, normal human waste, totally fine, right? But you don't want to put down a lot of other solid products. You don't want to put down bacon grease and things like that, coffee grounds. Throw that in the trash. I have a septic system and I just, I kind of rinse my dishes and stuff, but any big wads of stuff, put it in the trash can first. And that's really all you got to do. No baby wipes either. Just stay away from the baby wipe, which you shouldn't put down the city sewer anyway. So my septic system in my house that I have lived at for 20 years and raised 2 kids there, I've had it pumped once in 20 years. So as long as you're responsible with it, it's super, super low maintenance. It's nothing to be worried about. Just educate yourself about it and how to take care of them. And it's a non-issue. All right. The next thing to be familiar with is if you're on a well. Now, public sewer, there's not a lot of public sewer unless you're in the cities. Public water is much more widespread. And a lot of that, you got to realize is for fire protection because there's fire hydrants all along the streets and stuff. So of course you have public water, but you can be on an individual or a shared well if you get out further, more the rural area. Again, a well is nothing, especially here in Western Washington. It's nothing to be concerned about. I have never heard of a well going dry. The great thing about a well is free water. It's your water. You never have a water bill. And for the most part, it seems to be pretty unlimited, but it is something that you just gotta, maybe do a water sample once a year, pay a few bucks to make sure that the water quality is good every couple years or so. Most people honestly don't do that unless they're buying a house and they want to get it tested when they're buying to make sure that their water source is good. You do have some wells out here, not everywhere, but it's certainly not uncommon. So don't be afraid of them. So I mentioned shared wells, right? So sometimes you might have a 2-party or a 3-party well where there's 3 residents or 2 residents that share one well, and they just have an agreement that they have any maintenance costs, or if a pump needs to be replaced, they split that cost, things like that. But it's pretty common. A lot of places have their own individual well. So of course you're responsible for all of it. And then if you have a well that has 4 connections or more, it's actually called a Class B well. And those have to be monitored by the health department once a year. It's just kind of the local rules here. And then it takes all, you don't have any responsibility because the health department monitors it for you. So the last thing in this, let's talk about what a crawl space is. And again, I grew up in Los Angeles area, and every home that I knew of anyway was built on a concrete slab. Well, up here, first house I bought, and every house I've ever had, and almost, I'm going to rough it out to 95% of the homes that I help buy or sell here are all on crawl spaces. So it's still a concrete foundation, but there's a crawl space under the house where you can actually go under the house, and that's where the insulation is at, that's where the wiring is at, and the plumbing is at. And there's a lot of of advantages to the crawl space. If you have a plumbing problem or an electrical problem, you don't have to dig up the slab. Imagine what a pain in the butt that would be. This, you just go underneath the house, you can rewire it, replumb it, whatever it is. You have access to everything down there. It's super convenient, and it's actually pretty cool. Just very foreign to me, and if you're coming from an area where most houses are built on slabs, it may be foreign to you too. Okay, so now let's talk about moisture, water, wetlands, flood zones, because that's a lot of questions we get about up here, because the perception is we get all this rain and people want to know how much flooding there is. Well, we have certain flood zones that are designated on the FEMA map, but it's not really prevalent. Like, flooding really is not an issue. Maybe just in a couple spots, but for the most part, you don't have to worry about that at all. Now, what is more prevalent here is what is designated as wetlands. And again, if you're on small city lots or something like that, you don't have to worry about this at all. But if you're a little bit more out in the country and have more acreage, you might have parts of that property that are designated as a wetland. So it's kind of a protected area. It's a part of the property that you can't build on or anything like that. It's got to stay kind of in its natural state. Now, you can still go use it and put trails through it and things like that, but there's no building on it. And again, these are all designated areas. They're all on county maps, so you can see how much of your property might have a wetland on it. You may not have any at all, and you might have a little pocket here or there. And there's a few lots. If you're looking to buy a lot to build a house on, this is probably the biggest thing that you got to look at, is to make sure that you're not too restricted on what you can do with that property because of wetlands that may or may not be on. Come here, Coda. Come here. Good boy. Good boy. Okay, so hey, really quick break in this. I just want to let you know we're in an area called the McCormick Trails. And this is a whole trail system here that people come and take walks for, walk their dogs and this and that. And then this area right here is actually an enclosed dog park. So it's all fenced in. You can take your dog off the leash, just like I took Coda off the leash, and he's down the trail there somewhere now. He's made lots of friends out here. So it's just a great area that's really close to town. You can come take a walk in nature, take your dog off the leash, let him run around. It's a great spot. Okay, so let's talk about water. And this is one thing that you really have to be cognizant of if you're buying a house in Gig Harbor or anywhere in the Pacific Northwest for that matter, is we have talked about the winters are kind of wet. We do get our moisture and rain. Water is the worst thing for your house. So it's super, super important to keep your gutters clear. Make sure the downspouts are cleared. Make sure that water is getting kicked away from the foundation. Our home inspectors will tell you all the time, water is your enemy when it comes to a house. So it's very, very important to keep up on that maintenance. I clean my gutters a couple times a year, make sure the downspouts are good. And that way I've never had any water issues with my foundation or anything around my house. You just got to stay up on it. So the last thing that we're going to talk about when it comes to homes here in Western Washington is our construction style. And it may be a little different than where you're coming from. So for me, for example, coming from the Southern California area, it seems like almost every home was stucco, had stucco siding on it. Here, you find it once in a while, but it's pretty darn rare. If you go back to the older generation homes, you get a lot of cedar siding, which is great as long as you keep the paint up on it. Wood really only rots if it's not protected, and paint's the greatest protector of all time. So if you have one of the homes with older cedar siding, make sure the paint stays good on it. The modern construction tends to have hardy plank siding, which is a cement like fiberboard siding, which is like bulletproof. The stuff is great. You don't really ever have to paint it. As long as you use good quality paint in the beginning, that stuff will stay on there forever. It doesn't rot. Like I said, it's a cement-based fiberboard. It's fantastic. So we're not going to see a lot of stucco up here. We're not going to see a whole lot of brick or stone. Of course, there's those one-offs where you do here and there, but it's not the norm. So let's talk about prices. And prices here in Gig Harbor, as far as housing go, it may either shock you on how expensive it is, or it may shock you on how affordable it is. And it all depends where you're coming from. So let's put it in perspective for nationwide. Nationwide, we're on the West Coast, right? We're going to be a higher price point than most places in the country. I have people moving here from the Midwest and things like that look at the housing prices here and say, my gosh, I can buy 5,000 square feet on 10 acres for, $300,000. Well, here you're not going to find a house for $300,000. On the other hand, if you're coming from Los Angeles or San Francisco or something like that, you're just going to be astonished at how affordable it is. And you can buy a waterfront home with a deep water dock and all those things for just a couple $1 million. We're down in Los Angeles or San Francisco or those types of areas, they're maybe $15 or $20 million. So it all depends on where you're coming from. So specifically, prices in Gig Harbor, our average house price here in Gig Harbor starting in 2026 is right around $900,000. So if you're looking at our immediate area, we're a little on the higher end. It is much more affordable in parts of Tacoma, in Port Orchard, Mason County, Kitsap County, Thurston County. All of those are going to be more affordable. And Gig Harbor itself is one of the more expensive places in Pierce County itself. So if you're looking at the immediate surrounding area, Gig Harbor is going to be a little bit more pricey. If you want something more affordable, but still close to Gig Harbor and have all the amenities of Gig Harbor, you can look in those surrounding areas and find something for maybe, 30% less actually. However, if you're coming from Seattle or anywhere in King County, the East Side, Bellevue, Kirkland, and Redmond, these are pretty nice places. And the average price points up there are more like 1.4 or 1.5 million. So your dollar is going to go a lot further in Gig Harbor than if you're just living an hour away in Seattle. So again, it really is dependent on where you're coming from and what prices you're accustomed to. Do you think if we're affordable or if we're really expensive? And the answer is yes to both. So one of the biggest mistakes people make is shopping by name. And a lot of people just want that name, Gig Harbor. Well, that could be a big mistake for you if you are outpricing yourself and it's not something you can comfortably afford. Guess what? You can be really nearby, still have the Gig Harbor lifestyle, but be outside of Gig Harbor. South Kitsap and Port Orchard is a great option for that. Over on the Key Peninsula is another great option for that. You still are close to Gig Harbor. You can use all the amenities of Gig Harbor and all the facilities, but you're just 10, 15 minutes away and your dollar is going to go so much further. So don't buy just based on name, buy based on lifestyle. All right, let's transition into the culture of Gig Harbor and what it's like to actually live here. So Gig Harbor is kind of a smaller town and we have our own unique vibe. We are not a big city rushing from here to there and all that sort of stuff. It's a little bit more calm. There's definitely a sense of community. You're going to see some familiar faces depending on what your routine is. So there's a few local gyms, the YMCA, the club at Gig Harbor. There's some CrossFit gyms in the area. If you frequent those, you're going to run into the same people over and over and over. If you go to the same coffee shops each morning, you're going to run into the same people there. If you're a member of Candlewood Golf and Country Club like I am, you're going to find your circle of people there and run into those same groups. And that's how you form your networking, right? So it's just the vibe down here. Right now, we're downtown Gig Harbor, and Gig Harbor is not just a pretty little town on the water, which it certainly is, but there's so much more to it. You can get so involved in all these different little things depending what you are into. So here's a little gut check for you, okay? If you want a high energy, nightlife, hustle and bustle kind of place, Gig Harbor probably isn't it. If you're looking for something a little more low key, a little more relaxed, a little bit more of a true community feel, then this is the place for you. And we're going to get into all sorts of things that you can make yourself feel at home and get into your rhythm and your vibe here in Gig Harbor. And along that business standpoint line is also the Rotary. So that's something to look into. If you're a big fitness buff, there's running clubs that are around. I mentioned those gyms earlier. You're going to run into the same people over and over, especially if you go in the same sort of times each day. Down here at the Waterfront, there's all sorts of waterfront activities. There's the dragon boat races that you can get involved in. There's sailing clubs that are out of here. Again, if you're a golfer or you want that country club lifestyle, you can go up to Candlewood or even Gig Harbor Golf Club, and they have those types of activities and men's clubs and tennis clubs and pickleball clubs, wine tasting events at the country club, things like that. So there's all sorts of clubs that you can get into, and perhaps the best way for families to get really involved and get to know each other and become part of the community is all the kids events, right? Kids sporting events that they have, the Maritime Festival that the kids walk in. There's all sorts of stuff. Penn Met Parks has all the kids facilities and those clubs that go on. If you have kids and they're involved in activities, you're definitely going to meet lots of people. They tend to be the same people because the same kids are in it, right? So lots of ways to get involved in the community at Gig Harbor. And the vibe here is very much kind of that chill, non-stress, low speed. We're not in a hurry here. It's a really peaceful place to live. If you want to get involved in some volunteer work, we have the Fish Food Bank out here, and we also have the Food Backpack for Kids. So these are just where we get supplies and food and things like that for underprivileged kids and families in the area. It's a great way to give back some time and a great way to meet some people. There's also clubs like the Kiwanis Club. We have a Lions Club here. Those social kind of settings where you can definitely meet people. It's a big hit, and it's something you should definitely check out. If you're looking for business connections and those types of networking opportunities, you might want to look into the Chamber of Commerce or the Rotary Club. They're attended heavily by local business owners here. They have lunches once a month. It's a great way to get involved in the business aspect of things and also meet people that you might want to engage with socially. And of course, there's always the local churches that are around. And if you are a church goer, you know how that works. It's a very big sense of community within those churches. And we have several churches in the area of several different types of denominations. And you should look all of those up and see what might be a good fit for you. So depending on what you want your lifestyle and what you want your Gig Harbor Jam to look like, your neighborhood is really going to come into play here. Do you want to be involved in your community? Do you want to have neighborhood parties? Do you want to be really close to downtown here and walk to all the events that go on downtown? Or do you want a lot more privacy and be away from people? Funny story, I was with a client yesterday that her quote was, "I hate people." She wanted to be out, have her own space, and never even see a neighbor. So it just depends on what you're looking for, how involved you want to be in the community or not, and what fits your lifestyle. So let's sum this up. Gig Harbor truly is the place that everybody imagined. It's got the lovely water. It's got the trees all around. It's got a sense of community. It has a pride of ownership. But how you make it super successful for you is to get educated on what it's like here and to pick the right spot. So the real winners are the people that buy a house here in Gig Harbor and they understand the local rules. They know where they want to buy. They're not blindsided by the weather, especially in the winter months when it's kind of gray like this. They choose to thrive in it instead. They educate themselves about the systems that we have up here, such as septic systems or how the house is built with the crawl space, or if you have a well or if you're on public water. You're just totally worldly when it comes to all that stuff and you're not blindsided by anything down the road. And you know how you find some of that stuff out? You get involved with a local pro, a local true real estate agent that can educate you all about the area and what you should be on the lookout for. So if you are looking to possibly move to Gig Harbor or the surrounding areas and you want to educate yourself on all of these things, just give us a call. We're happy to help point you in all the right directions and give you all the resources that you may need. My name is Darren Rivers. I am the Northwest Realtor and managing broker of the Rivers Group. My team and I would love to help you out. All our information is right here. Give us a call and we'll see you on the next video.